Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Holistic Academy podcast, a space where we share holistic wisdom by weaving together ancient knowledge and modern science to help you live with clarity, purpose, and today, truth. I'm Amy, and this episode is personal because we're diving into something that sounds simple but might be the deepest human challenge of all. Finding your voice. And no, not just speaking louder in meetings or finally posting that thing online. We're talking about authenticity. That rare, almost electric state when who you are inside and how you show up outside are finally in sync.
Hi, Amy. I'm David. And I'll be honest, this idea is really interesting, and authenticity is everywhere, I think, right now. But very few people actually understands what it takes. And I think that many times we are afraid of showing who we are, and we play a lot of roles in life that we sometimes confuse the role with who we are. And probably that's why it's challenging also to speak the truth. So it is not just a mindset shift, it is neurological, it is psychological, it is ancient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It is something difficult to sit with, and it's a high frequency we can sit in when we do reach our authentic state. But a lot of times we have to perform different roles, so we're out of touch with the inner sense of self and the truth of who we are. But today we're going to take you on a journey across time, across disciplines, and to show you something powerful. Your voice isn't something you find, it's something you unlock. So let's rewind back in history for a moment. We tend to think of finding your voice as this modern self-development goal, something born out of social media, personal branding, or therapy culture. But when we look back from Mesopotamian clay tablets to ancient Greece to Eastern philosophy, we realize something kind of mind-blowing. Humans have been struggling to speak their truth for over 4,000 years.
Well, that's so much time that we have experienced that. And one of the most powerful stories that comes from Onana is the world's first known author.
Yes, it's a strange name to pronounce. And Gianna, she was an Akkadian princess and high priestess from about 2300 BCE. And there were a lot of stories in this time that a lot of people weren't able to speak with their authentic voice or even write. And sadly for her, she was cast into an exile during a political coup and literally lost her position and her home. But she started to write poetry, like the Exaltation of Inanna. And here where she writes, she talks about this visceral pain of being silenced in her culture. But she did something revolutionary. She used her human voice to pray and petition, recording her personal fears and identity in clay tablets. She proved that the drive for expression is stronger than her political exile. And although she was literally removed from power and silenced also politically, she wrote anyway. So that's a powerful story to me about how even when you are sometimes oppressed or silenced, you can start to share your stories in different ways and in books and change the way people think about things, and sharing your story, giving them awareness and appreciation for what's happened to you as well. So it's important to share our story and express ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more that even in today's moment, we have a lot of censorship and things that you can't sometimes express because people now are still controlling the way we speak or the way we think. So that's what gets me, that these kind of examples, ancient examples, show us that we can not just survive and be in silence, we can transform the way we express. And in doing that, this poet, she became the first recorded human to say, this is what I feel and this is who I am.
Yeah, it's very powerful, especially when we can start to read other people's stories and learn about others in a way. And it helps us also connect to the state of being a human, I think. So it's a powerful thing to do. And yeah, very powerful when people have been through challenges in life and have somehow overcome them with difficulty to express their story. And even later, then, the Greeks have given us a word for this kind of courage that can be seen even from the ancient world to modern day. And this is called Parrhesia, fearless speech. It means to speak everything, not filtered, not polished, not people-pleasing, truth at personal risk.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting concept that nowadays should be, let's say, updated and used in this kind of world. So here is an important twist. Parrhesia wasn't seen as confidence. It was seen as a duty, a responsibility to truth itself, which is wild because today we think I'll speak when I feel confident, but the ancients believe you speak because truth matters more than comfort.
Mm-hmm. I think this is such an important point, David, that being authentic and in alignment with your truth, speaking your truth, it was seen as a moral obligation to that community. They were people called the Parrhesiators, or known more as the truth tellers. And it was someone like Socrates who chose honesty over flattery, even when it risked his life. And indeed, there's also a bond to truth here. You aren't using just rhetoric, the way you speak, to manipulate. You're sharing your heart because it's your duty to tell the truth. And we also see this in other cultures like Taoism. You have Wu Wei, effortless action, where authenticity isn't just about forcing your voice. It's more just about being you, like water, submissive yet powerful enough to overcome the hard and strong. It's this idea that when you're in true alignment, then you can encounter that flow state or that genius zone where your ego drops away and the voice or the creative expression just emerges. And in Sufi poetry, like Rumi's song of the reed, the human soul can be described as a flute. And this haunting sound of the flute is a cry of separation. It's longing to return. But Rumi says for the divine breath to move through us, we have to be carved and hollow. We have to empty ourselves of the rocks of psychological conditioning and ego. So here, becoming authentic is removing all those conditioned and programmed parts of you and finding out what is underneath all those layers of an onion.
Yeah, that's beautiful because I was also remembering while you were narrating this part of Rumi and the Taoism that the concept of the higher self, when we connect with this spirit, with this soul, that is the real us, is when we silence the mind. And it's not having the mind in blank, it's just allowing this peacefulness state, or it can be doing something that you love and entering into this perfect zone of flow and becoming purely who you are and expressing that either in art or singing or any kind of writing also that you can do. That's why this poet was able to express herself with the power of the word, no? So if we want that pure note to come through, we have to face the parts of ourselves We have suppressed our fears, our shames, and we have to arrive to the hollow instrument. And the music, the voice, only comes when you have been empty.
Just like we were saying, empty of ego, of fear, empty of our conditioning. And that's when you can start to unlock the secret of our authentic voice and who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And that leads to the slightly uncomfortable truth, which is authenticity isn't about adding something, it's about removing what's in the way.
Exactly. So just take a moment to pause and think about that. Who are you when everything else has been removed and let go and pushed away? Who are you underneath? Who are you at the core? What does that really mean? Everyone is almost unique as well. So living in an authentic world, I think people would be less about conformity and more about just expressing their unique selves. And like you say, using the creative mediums to help them share what they have witnessed and want to help share in the world. So let's shift now more to the modern world and the science, because I think there's a question that this episode is trying to answer. If authenticity is like feeling so at peace with yourself and that feeling of being totally natural, why does it feel so hard in this modern society? Why in modern society does our authentic voice literally shut down?
Well, it is just really challenging due to the amount of information that we are receiving. All of the inputs, all of the things is just even difficult to be at peace without doing nothing. So that's something that can give people an idea. So let me paint a picture. If you are in a meeting, you have something to say and it matters. And then suddenly your throat tightens, your mind goes blank, and you say nothing.
We call that nerves.
Yeah, exactly. So we do, but scientifically, it's much deeper. This is what we call the vagal paradox. And our nervous system has an emergency brake, essentially an emergency shutdown mode known as the dorsal vagal response, according to the Polyvagal Theory developed by Dr. Stephen Porch. When we perceive a threat, even a social one, like being judged, our system can shift from social engagement into a freeze state. So, the silence isn't a lack of courage, it's literally a biological shutdown, a coping mechanism. So, your system goes better to stay silent than risk danger.
Mm. Precisely, and I can definitely relate to that freeze response in my life when things feel difficult or challenging. And I think here's a key insight about that. Our body doesn't know the difference between a tiger or an intense conversation. So, almost like having a real threat or a fake threat, our body is responding the same. And this fear is activating there's three parts of our brain, and the fear would activate maybe the lower two parts, our reptilian, primal brain, and also our mid emotional brain. And so when those things are going off as an alarm, then we'll be experiencing that fear and that freeze, as David, you were saying. But actually, we're not being chased by a tiger, so that's important to realize. But our body is going through the same process. And people might feel this intense emotional bandwidth within their bodies when they're doing things like public speaking or having a difficult person, a conversation with them, with a difficult person, or having a difficult conversation. So it's almost like we're feeling like we're programmed to a real tiger eating us. And that's probably why we're also avoiding our hard, these hard conversations, to avoid being dysregulated as if we've been attacked and eaten alive. And so a reason probably why in society we also struggle with sharing our authentic truth, because a lot of us live too much in the fear state and not feeling free.
Yeah. And that social pressure is so real and it begins in childhood due to these archaic educational systems where you are afraid to give a wrong answer instead of being encouraged to just think outside of the box, no? So if you think about it from another lens, and if your physical pillar is crumbling, meaning you are exhausted and malnourished, your instrument, your body, won't have the stamina for the authentic presence. Or take the environmental pillar. If you are in a space that feels unsafe and or chaotic, your neuroception, that subconscious scanning for danger, will keep you in a defensive state, silencing your truth. But this means something really important. Your silence is not weakness. It's a learned behavior of protection.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about is so true. There are all these ways where societal programming has shut down our voice and our authenticity. So you're right, it is important, and perhaps for people, staying silent is our body's last attempt to protect ourselves from that overwhelming stress of going through that difficult experience. Because when we perceive a threat in our body, our heart rate drops, our voice tightens, our thinking shuts down, just as you mentioned before, and this entire social engagement system goes offline. And often in that freeze response, you can't take in information either. So it's almost, pushing you out of yourself into that state of fear. And it's definitely out of alignment with feeling authentic and feeling like you've got that logical part of your brain switching on and helping you navigate it in a healthy way.
Yeah. So trying to just be confident in that moment that's like trying to sprint with the handbrake on. So your logical brain functioning is hijacked. If you are in either the fight or flight or freeze response, the reptilian brain, the primitive area of our brains, or the midbrain is activated, and this controls our automatic primal responses and emotions. But when they are online, these compete with the logical brain kicking in, overcoming our fear, being confident, and speaking our authentic truth.
Exactly. So some little bit of brain science to understand why it's difficult to be in authenticity when you have these conflicting pressures around us in society. But the good news is there are ways that we can move through this in a healthy way. And we do need to try and signal safety to our body to be able to live in that authenticity, to allow our logical brain to kick in and speak from that higher self or that true part of you that you've uncovered. So you can, instead of thinking about your way out of it, you need to feel your way out of it by signaling that safety in your body through that vagus nerve, the busy highway that connects our brains to our hearts and our throats. But this is what is really fascinating, as we always find out in our podcasts, if you haven't listened already, is that ancient traditions were already doing this, and quite often the ancient science and the modern knowledge and modern research studies seem to back each other up in different ways. So let's connect the dots. Let's look at a bit of psychology and also how we could step into our authentic voice. In ancient Vedic traditions, they taught a lot about this fifth energy center, the Vishuddha, or throat chakra, associated with your expression and truth. And they called it the gateway to authenticity. they believed that if this center was blocked, you'd experience that fear of judgment or having a sense of having no say in the world. So you might have also felt like that if you've had your voice silenced. And that's where you might feel unheard, you fear judgment, and you hold back. But here's the beautiful part: the ancients used sound to open it. And you might have felt like this liberation when you start singing or singing your favorite song. The ancients used chanting, humming, and vibration.
Mhm. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and it reminds me that also the emotional psychosomatic explanation of being or having a cold or your throat closed means that you were not able to speak your truth or to say something that you wanted to say. So that means that you need to speak with someone and you need to say what you really think. So these ancient traditions and this ancient science that using sound as a tuning fork, they taught the Bija mantra, hum, chanting. This creates a physical vibration in the larynx that actually stimulates the throat muscles and the vagus nerve. So it's essentially a 3,000-year-old vagal toning exercise. Modern science now shows that these vibrations actually stimulate the vagus nerve, and the exact system responsible for calming your body and restoring your voice is this deeper relaxation through the vibrations.
Absolutely. And I've actually experienced that in some yoga classes where we all do some omming at the beginning or the end. And just that sort of chanting and vibration in the body really feels like it unlocks and opens up new channels. And you feel more inside yourself and in your identity and in connection with your body. So, what they were doing 3,000 years ago was basically nervous system regulation. And this is the ancient secret to unlocking an authentic voice. Try singing, try chanting, try humming. It's such a powerful technique.
Yeah, you're right. But let's layer that with the psychology insights that we have now, because even if your body feels safe, your mind might not. So you may not speak your authentic voice. This is where the shadow work comes in. Because often the reason you don't speak your truth isn't just fear of others, it's the fear of what your truth might reveal.
Mm-hmm. And I've also, as a recovering people pleaser, have also experienced that I'm scared of speaking my truth in case the other people will react or they might not like my truth. So it's difficult because when you speak your authentic truth and you experiment it, this is the part that people don't always expect as well. So, yeah, it's definitely a journey coming back to yourself and rewriting those stories with the relationships and finding out, are there ways that you can express in a healthy way your boundaries, your truth, what's in alignment with you. And people also, we like to think I could just be more confident. I'd say what I really feel. But as you were saying, David, shadow work can flip that completely because we need to ask a different question. What part of me doesn't feel safe being seen? And that idea comes from Carl Jung, who said we all carry a shadow, not because we're broken, but because at some part in our lives, at some point, we learn that certain parts of us were unacceptable. So that allows us to sort of hide ourselves and not fully express who we are.
That resonates a lot and more today because I just had this therapy session where I speak about these kind of scenarios where you relive certain aspect of your childhood experience and you feel again those kind of challenging emotions that life brings you back into those positions where you feel uncomfortable. So we are always editing ourselves. We hide our anger because we were told to be nice. We dim our confidence because we don't want to seem arrogant. And we suppress our sensitivity because we don't want to look weak. And those parts don't disappear. They just go underground, but they will resurface at some point in your adult experience.
Well, yes, I guess they'll go underground and we'll hide them because that's the coping mechanism we learned. But when you step into authenticity, you can rewrite those patternings and you realize you don't need to hide. That there'll be people in your life, maybe not your family, who will celebrate you and for all the things that you're thinking and visioning and ideating and putting into practice. But yes, this really does matter for authenticity, because if you are feeling like you're hidden and some parts of you are still hidden to protect yourself, then anything you're expressing from yourself is only the partial truth. And that's why people might feel like we can't fully be ourselves. I can't fully be myself. Something's also holding me back. I'm not knowing what that quite is, not being able to put a finger on it, or even sometimes we think like we don't even know what we really think. And that's because our system has been filtering out anything that feels unsafe to be. So we're unable to actually make a decision for ourselves or recalibrate to who we are and what we like, what we don't like, what we desire, what we want. So anyway, it's a journey to rediscover your authenticity. And as we were saying, let go of all that programming and conditioning and coming back to your inner truth and feeling safety.
And this is why it's so powerful to be authentic, because if parts of you are hidden, then anything you express is only a fraction of who you are. So you are not exactly lying to the world about who you are, but you are not fully telling the truth either. And your nervous system knows that, but it's important to acknowledge where that feeling of being held back comes from.
Exactly. And I felt like this a few months ago starting a new job, because I didn't want to fully come in and say, "Hi, I'm Amy, blah, 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 blah." I wanted to just step back and observe and sort of figure out how I should best show up in my role rather than just best show up as me. So at first that made me hold back a little bit and stay hidden and suppress my truth, even though I had lots of things to share. And then, yeah, little by little, when I felt a bit more confident, I felt like I could find my authentic voice and share a little bit more. But it is definitely a process, and not everyone likes your authentic voice, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you are in alignment with your truth, and that will feel like a relief for your nervous system as well. And the right people, as I said before, who align with you and your values will come around you when you step into that version of yourself. But it's important to realize that the healing work isn't about fixing yourself. To find your authentic self, it's about integration as well. So instead of saying, "I shouldn't feel like this," and dismissing things, to be authentic, you are integrated as a whole. So you need to start asking a reframe, what is this feeling trying to show me? And we can practice this in really simple ways. So this is a really good takeaway. If you want to take away one thing from the episode, this would be a really good exercise to zone in on. Next time you are triggered, pause and get curious. Notice the reaction. What exactly is bothering me about this person or about this situation? Then be brave and turn inward, but you can do that gently. You can maybe investigate where you feel this inside of you. Where is this emotion expressed or suppressed? And what experiences growing up might have bothered you in a similar way? And you could just reflect on that and mentally note that without it being good or bad. And then the third step is to reclaim it. So what would it look like to own this in a healthy way and reflect on that trigger and that reaction? And the more you are aware of this cycle inside of you, the more you'll be able to control your reactions and actually turn them into responses. So it's not coming from a reactive fight, freeze state where you're not fully in alignment. It's coming from a calm, regulated state where you are in alignment. So it's important to notice that, and remembering as well to reflect on where you are not allowing yourself to take up space, because that can be a place where you feel a bit dysregulated. And by turning this irritation into self-awareness, we can look through this lens of authenticity more personally and more integrated, and we can understand why we believe that we can't fully be ourselves in certain environments and whether that is actually true in all environments. We can also understand then what things hold us back and who we want to be in this world, refining our identity, sense of self, knowing what is truly and uniquely important to us, and then finding that authentic voice, sharing what we want to express in the world and what we want to talk about, what our values are, what we like, what we want.
It is so interesting to ask these kind of questions and do the exercise that you are proposing, because the more you get curious about the environment that you are living, about experiences that are coming into your life, the more you realize that you need to still unravel certain aspects of these shadows that reappear in your life, and they are giving you the opportunity, instead of life happening to you and becoming the victim, to upgrade yourself and to get into a new level of being more aware of the emotions that you are already having, that you can express, that you can feel, as you mentioned, safer in a different kind of environment than the one that you live. So I completely
Yeah, then
agree.
you can say life is happening for us, not against us. So I like what you shared, David, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It's happening to give us these, let's say, updates, like an app that you have to update every 2 days or 3 days or a week. Well, life will give you chances to upgrade yourself into the higher version that you are supposed to be. So there is some kind of personal evolution to reach this authenticity. There are levels, there are layers. So much of the work is looking inward. In society, we can see familiar sound bites of how our voice is intentionally pushed down, and you may experience similar examples of some authenticity triggers in your own life, so that relate to our own judgments and what they may reflect inwards about our own battle with being our authentic selves. When we judge someone and think they are being too loud, it may reflect a part of us that's afraid to take up space. Thinking you are too sensitive about someone could reflect in us that we are worried about being vulnerable and expressing our own emotions. Or saying someone is being too confident might mirror a confidence we ourselves haven't allowed to own.
Wow, that's a truth bomb, David. I myself have made those similar judgments of others in the past. And you're right, it's probably because I was too afraid to express myself, be myself, and share my authentic voice.
Well, already by reflecting on these responses of ours, the journey through this podcast episode helping us to become aware of why we may hide our authentic voice, it gives us permission to reflect on your past and make different choices to show up in a new way, building a stronger sense of identity aligned to your values and what you want to speak into this world. You don't have to attach to all the stories and hide yourself. You can open up when you are ready, stepping into the full expression of who you are. Judging others less helps you judge yourself less and live more in alignment with your truth. And that is important to go through, as when you reach that stage, there is less of you that you feel you need to hide, and more of you feel you need to express.
Mhm. Well, yes, that's the real essence of the shadow work. And it's not just about being someone new, it's about that essence of becoming whole and integrated. And yes, the shadow work does make us feel quite uncomfortable because it challenges our identity.
Mm.
But here's the payoff: the more of yourself you keep reclaiming, the less effort authenticity takes. You're able to rewrite your identity and build that strong sense of self. And from that place, finally, authenticity isn't something that you are performing, it's something you being. Caring less about what others think about you, but being free within that state where your internal reality and your external expression are in perfect resonance. You don't have to try to be real. You just stop hiding. And you probably see this in a lot of older people when they lose their looks and they've gone through a lot of life experience. They're much more authentic and they speak their truth much more brutally. But that's because they don't care and they don't see the point, but they know who they are by then, and they feel ready and often entitled to get out their opinion and express themselves, but they're probably feeling much more regulated and calm and able to have that time to reflect and really know who they are, who their authentic self is, what makes them uniquely different, and what they could create and express in this world. And of course, when you're older, you also have a little bit of time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's why probably when you are over 40 or 50, you start having these realizations that you need to let go of this programming that you suffer through mostly your previous 30 years of your life, no? So there is something simpler and surprisingly confronting that you can start doing, which is mirror work. Louise Hay was a pioneer here. When you look into your own eyes and say, I love and accept you, you are activating neural pathways for compassionate human connection. That eye contact creates a feedback loop of self trust. And it is so simple, but yet so difficult. The mirror doesn't just show your face, it shows your beliefs about your face. But if you can stay with that discomfort for just 5 minutes a day, you will build the emotional intelligence to process life without the judgment. And I have done that experiment about the mirror work, about this practice that you sometimes need to do. And it's really freeing, although as I mentioned, it is challenging.
Yeah, me too. In fact, it was such a journey to go into the mirror and tell myself I love myself and accept myself every day. Some days I didn't believe it. Some days I was doubting myself, but little by little, something healed inside of me, and I really did feel that wholeness and love and self-trust. So, authenticity, what a big title, and what a great practice to try and connect more with ourselves and accept ourselves and discover who we are. So if we zoom out for 1 second, finding your voice isn't just one thing, it's a journey to authenticity. It's biological, regulating your nervous system. It's psychological, integrating your shadow. It's philosophical, committing to your truth, which, being honest with yourself, is one of the hardest things to do. And it's spiritual, allowing flow. And maybe it's also creative, because your voice isn't just what you say, it's what you build, what you write, what you create, and what you express.
Which reminds me that your authentic voice will find a way if you let it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, David. And yeah, let's just make it practical. So if you're listening and thinking today, okay, but where do I start? How do I begin to be more authentic? Then, as we reach this last part, we are here to share our holistic tips in a powerful way so you can begin this process. So, it also summarizes a little bit about what we shared in the episode. One of the most important things is to regulate yourself before you express. Before any important conversation, don't rehearse your words only. You should also regulate your body. You could try the humming for 2 minutes, the chanting, the omming. You could even do breathing exercises. We mention this a lot, but they're so powerful. Slow breathing with long exhales can really help you relax your nervous system and the vagus nerve. And even gargling water, so in your mouth, and putting cold water on your the backs of your wrists and your neck can really help you calm down, as these stimulate your vagus nerve and bring you out of that freeze response.
Yeah. So the next one is practice micro truths. Authenticity isn't built in big moments. It's built in small ones. Start with low stakes honesty. Share your honest thoughts. I actually don't agree. I need time to think. That didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, that's a good one because that stops you from being a people pleaser. So you no longer begin sacrificing yourselves for others. You start to put yourself first and recalibrate yourself into alignment. So absolutely, definitely start practicing your micro truths and not hiding yourself. Number 3, create that space as well to hear yourself. So our voice inside can't emerge in the chaos with all this busy and distracting daily life with social media and all the commitments. We need to find a way to cultivate stillness. Journaling could be a good practice. Who are you? Who do you want to be? How could you fully express yourself? Is it safe for you to take up space? You could walk, but without headphones or music. So listening to nature and letting your thoughts flow with that movement. Or you could, instead of walking, just sit in silence and calmly breathe and listen to your thoughts and the insights that come up and the ideas inside. Because before we express ourselves, we of course need clarity from who we are and what is our authentic self. And if you're feeling frozen today, this has been a really good podcast episode for you, I think, and it can happen to all of us, that feeling of stuckness, being silenced or unsure. In those moments, just breathe. Remember that, just breathe. You can gargle some water, hum a low note if that also helps, but it's remember that you're not broken. It was your system protecting you, and you are a reed flute, and the universe is waiting to breathe through you.
Your authentic voice is still there, waiting to be unlocked.
Yes, and you're not here to be an echo of the world. You're here to resonate with it. The moment you align your truth, your voice won't need to be forced. It will flow. Stay unique, stay authentic, and stay aligned. The world needs more authentic voices living in alignment with their truth.
Yes, and thanks for this lovely episode, Amy. So before we wrap up, I want to give you a glimpse into our next episode because it builds perfectly on what we explored today. So the episode is called How to Make Money Doing What You Love and Finally Own Your Time. And this one is for anyone who's ever thought, I know what I love, but how do I actually make it work in real life? Because the truth is, passion on its own isn't the problem. Most people already know what they care about. What they don't know is how to structure it in a way that creates freedom. So next week we are going to break that down. So we'll explore how to move from doing what you love to actually being paid for it, to creating a life where your time is no longer controlled by it. We will also dive into the hidden blocks that stop people from getting there, the beliefs, the patterns, and the ways we unconsciously keep ourselves stuck trading time for money, even in work we enjoy. And of course, we will bring in the holistic lens because real freedom isn't just financial. It's nervous system, mindset, environment, and alignment. So if you are ready to not just find your voice, but actually build a life that supports it, join us next week.
Thanks, David. Yes, I can't wait for that episode. It's definitely been a lifelong quest of mine to find out how we can make a living from what we love. So I can't wait for the episode. Now, before we fully wrap up, this is a moment to share that we are starting to wind down our first podcast series. It's been really amazing to combine this ancient knowledge with modern science, but we've got something really exciting coming up to share. So, this is the first time we're speaking about it. We will be launching a brand new free course on Spotify and YouTube called The Mental Health Reset. This combines psychology, science, and holistic tools for well-being. This course is all about helping you rediscover your spark by rewiring your brain, reconnecting with your body, and reigniting your spirit. Over the coming months, we'll be releasing a series of episodes designed to help you truly understand your mental health, not just from one perspective, but as a whole, and also how we can heal our mental health. Because the truth is that well-being isn't just about our minds, it's also about how we think, how we feel, how we live, and how we connect. So we will also be exploring our emotional, mental, spiritual, financial, physical, and nutritional well-being. And in each episode, we will be supporting it with holistic resources to help you bring these ideas into your everyday life so you can have the best, most positive, and optimized mental health that you have been looking for. And this is because we want to provide a course that's holistic, it's integrated, it's self-paced, and it can be done in your own time, but we can make these tiny little shifts because small shifts together can create powerful change. And we're really, really excited to share this with you. So I look forward to that. Please share this episode with your friends and family, anyone who you think might be interested in it. Please write us a review on our episodes. We'd love that, and any comments or topics that you'd like to hear from us. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time at the Holistic Academy.
Thank you, everyone. And as Amy mentioned, please rate us in our platforms and subscribe to our channel so that we can support you with this new, amazing, and fully complete mental health reset and course. Thank you. See you in the next one.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.